We've all seen it happen, right? An accident, maybe just a little fender bender, or someone slipping at the store. And you can't help but wonder, who's actually at fault here? It's a question that pops up all the time. Well, it turns out the law has this surprisingly simple but really powerful test to figure it all out. And today, we're going to walk through it together. So let's dive in. All right, to get started, I want you to just picture this. It's a totally normal day, right? You're doing your weekly grocery run, minding your own business, just cruising down the aisle, and then, bam, it happens. And suddenly, you're on the floor. Your ankle is throbbing, and you look over and see this puddle. Looks like someone spilled juice right where you were walking. Now, after that first jolt of shock wears off, your first thought might be exactly this. Is the store actually responsible for what just happened? And believe it or not, that one simple question, it pulls you right out of the grocery aisle and smack into the middle of a huge area of the legal system called tort law. Now, I know, that sounds super complicated, but its goal is actually really simple. It's all about figuring out who should pay, who should bear the loss when someone gets hurt. So, how does tort law even begin to answer that question? Well, it uses this specific legal litmus test, if you will, and it's a concept called negligence. This is the tool the law uses to sort out who's responsible in all sorts of accidents, from car crashes all the way to medical mistakes. Okay, I'll admit, that definition is a total mouthful, so let's just break it down. The key idea here, the thing you really need to get, is this reasonably prudent person. This is basically a fictional, totally average person that the law uses as a measuring stick. So the question really becomes, did the people involved act with the same level of care that this ordinary, careful person would have? And look, it's not about being perfect. Nobody's perfect. It's just about being reasonable. To make this even clearer, there's a really great analogy we can use. Just think of a negligence claim as a chain made up of 4 essential links. Now, for the claim to actually work, to prove someone was negligent, you have to connect all 4 of those links. If even one link is missing, poof, the whole chain just falls apart. And here they are. These are our 4 links: duty, breach, causation, and harm. That's it. This is our roadmap for the rest of this explainer. We're going to walk through each one, step by step, and we'll keep using our grocery store slip and fall to see exactly how this chain gets built. Okay, let's start with that first, and maybe the most fundamental link in the chain: duty. This one asks a really simple question right at the outset. Did the person or business even have a legal responsibility to you in the first place? This comparison really makes the whole duty idea crystal clear. See, when a store opens its doors to customers, the law says, hey, you've created a special relationship here. And with that relationship comes a duty of care, basically a responsibility to keep the place reasonably safe. Now, contrast that with a total stranger on the street. They don't generally have any legal duty to warn you about a crack in the sidewalk. So for our grocery store scenario, the answer is a big yes. A duty absolutely existed. Link 1 is locked in. All right, so we've established the first link, duty. The store owed you a responsibility. But, just having a duty isn't enough to prove someone was negligent. We now have to ask, was that duty actually broken? And that brings us to our second, equally critical link, breach. So this is breach. This is where we ask, did the store fail to live up to that standard of the reasonably prudent person? I mean, in our case, any careful store owner knows a spill is a hazard, right? They'd clean it up fast, or at the very least, they'd throw down a wet floor sign. By doing neither of those things, well, their actions just didn't meet that standard. They breached their duty. And just like that, link number 2 is connected. All right, next up, we've got link number 3, causation. Now, this one might seem super obvious, but it is an absolutely critical legal step. You have to be able to draw a direct line connecting the store's mistake to your injury. Think about it. If you slipped just because your shoelace was untied, well, the store's wet floor isn't the legal cause, is it? But in our story, nope. You fell because of the spill. The store's breach directly caused the accident. Boom, link 3 is locked in. And that brings us to our final link in the chain, harm, or as lawyers like to call it, damages. See, the law generally doesn't get involved in what-ifs or near misses. For a negligence claim to really stick, you have to have suffered a real, measurable loss. We're talking about things like actual medical bills, lost wages because you couldn't work, or, physical pain. In our scenario, the slip led to a real injury. And that means our fourth and final link is connected. The chain is now complete. So there we have it. We've looked at all 4 links in the chain. We started with a simple, everyday accident, and now we've walked through a whole legal analysis. So let's just step back for a second and look at the final picture we've put together. Okay, let's run down the checklist. Did the store have a duty? Yep, they owed you a duty of care. Did they breach it? Absolutely, they failed to clean the spill. Did that breach cause your fall? For sure. And did you suffer real harm? Yes, you did. All 4 links, they're all connected, solid as a rock. So in the eyes of the law, the verdict here is pretty clear. The store was negligent. So, why does this 4-link chain matter so much? I mean, who cares? Well, it's because it's not just about one person slipping in a grocery store. This simple test creates a fair and predictable way to hold people and businesses accountable for their actions. It encourages everyone, from the person driving next to you to the owner of your favorite coffee shop, to act with that reasonable care. And at the end of the day, that just makes things safer for all of us. But this whole thing brings up another really fascinating question, doesn't it? What if you were a little distracted? Maybe you were texting a friend while walking down that aisle. What happens when an accident is maybe partly your fault? Well, that's a whole other can of worms, and a question for another time.